Mm-hmm.
All right, what is
Matthew 22:32 says, "I am the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob."
it? Now, who are they referencing when they say the God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob? Capital G. Like, who is that?
Jehovah.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's not the Son.
Correct.
Okay, so I'm in agreement with you.
Okay.
I'm trying to establish, trying to frame it up real nice.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now that we got that established,
Mm-hmm.
if we go to John 1:1,
Mm-hmm.
you probably got that. You probably
I
got
know
that
that one.
memorized.
Uh-huh.
If you could Google John 1:1
Mm-hmm.
and then JW and then put Greek,
Mm-hmm.
it'll pull up the Greek interlinear of that verse.
Mm-hmm. I think I have it downloaded as well.
So I got it right here as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, it's right. So in the beginning was the Word,
Mm-hmm.
and we all agree that the Word is Christ. The Word is Jesus. So in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was toward. We say with God, but they say toward the same thing.
That's
The
fine.
Word was toward the God, and God was the Word. So it doesn't say a God; it says God was the Word. But there is a demotion, it seems like, and they put a lowercase on the G,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's where I guess you guys insert a God, but it doesn't say a God. It
Mm-hmm.
says and God was the Word. So now this is the Greek interlinear.
Mm-hmm.
So if we go into the Greek right here, so let's just do a breakdown of the Greek.
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God,
Mm-hmm.
and God was the Word. That's the Greek word theos.
Mm-hmm.
If you click theos,
Mm-hmm.
it'll show you in the Bible everywhere else where it mentions theos. So now if we go to Matthew 22:32, it says, I am the God of Abraham.
Mm-hmm.
And we just established that that's Jehovah, God the Father.
Mm-hmm.
But it says it's using theos.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we get from theos to be a small God when it says right here that this is the God of Abraham?
Right. So the God of Abraham. So when you look at who established a relationship with Abraham and called Abraham his friend, it was Jehovah, right? But if you look at the rest of what John said, we're going back, and so the translation in the ancient text
Well,
was
we got the Greek.
right, but before the Greek translation, you got to go back to the Hebrew translation as well, right? Because Greek wasn't the language of the day; that was the language of the day later. The original context of the prophets and they were written in Hebrew, right?
Yeah,
Do you
Old
agree with
Testament
that?
people,
Old
New
Testament,
Testament, Koine
Greek,
Greek,
right?
gotcha.
So it was later translated into Greek because that was the language of the day, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So when you hear someone say there's a Hebrew language or Hebrew word and then a Greek word, well, that's true because that was the language of the day. So Old Testament was written in Hebrew, whereas the New Testament was primarily written in Greek. So that's true. That's um, there's no wrongness about that. That's all right.
Okay.
But when you look at the word was with God,
Mm-hmm.
and word was a God. So there is a separation
Right.
there, right? It says the word was with God,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if it's a big G,
Uppercase and lowercase. Greek didn't have uppercase and lowercase. So again, that's something that was added to show, hey, there's a distinction between these two. But if the newer translation is based off of the Greek interlinear, and in the interlinear it doesn't have that that distinction in Greek, then how does that get there?
what do you mean? So when the newer translation is not necessarily based off of the Greek original, it's based off of the original Hebrew context and text that was written. Dead Sea Scrolls, all of those things, right? So what we have to remember is when it comes to uh, the Bible and really reading the context of which was written originally and how it was written, right? Now, we already talked about this. Unfortunately, you know, man has tampered with the Bible. We know that, right? So they also have tampered with the translation of the Bible as well.
So are you saying that this is a mistake?
I'm not saying it's a mistake. What I am saying though is when you say there is a differentiation, right? You say big G, little G, right?
Well,
So
I'm not saying
who's
it's a differentiation. I'm
okay?
saying that
They're saying it's a difference,
correct.
right? But what does that represent? So what does the big G represent, and then what does the little G represent?
But again, there is no there's no uppercase and lowercase. It's only
Sorry.
that's only in our English. It doesn't have that in Hebrew Greek uppercase and lowercase. So they use that word, that Greek word,
hmm
and again that same Greek word. I just showed you one verse in Matthew, but there's tons of places where it uses theos for God the Father.
So whether it's little G, big G, however they translate it, and I don't know Greek, so I'm just being honest, right? I mean, I don't know Greek, so I mean, I can do research and find out what they meant by the big G, little G. You can do the same,
Well,
and we
I'm
can,
saying that's what I have done,
right?
and there is no. What I'm saying, there is no big G or little G. There's no uppercase and lowercase in Greek.
hmm
It's they just have words that translate to other words. And again, their word for God is theos and theon, and they use them interchangeably.
hmm
They refer to the Father and the Son as both theos and theon.
hmm
So I was just, but in this specific example, they use this word that they apply to the God of Isaac, God of Abraham, and Jacob. They use the same word. So why isn't that word the quote unquote liturgy? So I'm just saying that's something to research
So
and think about.
I'm just pulling up research now. Go back, right? So it's using it's explaining it here what you're seeing. So it'll explain it here, what you're seeing. I haven't read into it, so I'm not going to sit here and like I'm a subject matter expert.
Right.
And even just now, I pulled up theos separately from theon, the two words. One means God, and the other one means godly. And that's just from pulling it up definition of. So one is God, the other one is godly.
So which one?
Theon is godly, and theos is God.
And then notice it says the God or the Almighty in this case. So who did, if we're making a distinction, who did, before everything else came to existence, who did Christ spend time with in eternity? His Father, right?
But she just said when she looked it up, she saw theos as God, right?
Right.
But it's well where it says
But
a
you said
God.
theon, you said theon, right? Was the other one?
No, the word was with God, and the word and God was the word.
Theon, right? Theon, right? And then theos, right? So what do those mean? Theon means godly, and then theos meant the God, right? And Jesus, who's godly, godlike, and a God in every right he
And
is.
I get what you're trying to say, but then how do we go back to where it uses theos and Matthew, talking about God the Father?
Who is the father of Abraham? Who's the one who formed the nation
God
of
Father.
Israel? The father.
I agree with you.
Right.
I agree with you. And of course this is getting back to my belief in the Trinity
hmm
is that all three of them work together in unison and why they interchange names. But if we just like I said, and I don't want to
No,
harp on this too much,
no,
but
no, no.
if we just establish that Theos is God Almighty, and in your Greek interlinear, it puts a God with a lowercase g, but it's still
But no, the theos is not a God. It's not the lowercase. It's theon, which was godly, right? And so it's making distinguish between Christ and God the Almighty.
and Theos, and God was the Word.
hmm
That's Theos.
No, it's talking about it. I see what you're saying. So you're saying it's putting Christ and God on the same level, basically, because it's using the word theos.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. But if you're looking at jw.org, which is great, right, it's not going to contradict itself because that would let me do some more research.
Okay.
You do too, and I'll send you some articles because I got your text message, so I'll send it to you by text.